So Dr. Ellerby is not with us again today. I have some videos to play for you, which we can discuss. They are very interesting. So let's wait a few minutes, see if anybody else joins us. Let me start by reading the Daily Word, which I love to read on programs like this. Hi, Debbie. Jonathan's out on business, and I have some videos to show you guys. So we'll be starting that in a couple minutes here. The word for the day is healing. I cooperate with my healing. At any moment, I can claim healing and be restored to the awareness of wholeness. To keep this awareness alive, I further my healing journey by taking conscientious care of my body and my mind. I prioritize meeting my needs by putting my health and healing first. I get enough sleep, make time for my spiritual practices, and eat well. If I am overextended, I care for myself by learning to say no if I simply don't have the time or energy to give. This is how I co-create with God and cooperate with my healing. My life is my responsibility, but that doesn't mean I am without help when I need it. God within guides me to care for myself and to know the truth of my divine nature is perfect wholeness. From Jeremiah, I will heal them and reveal to them abundance of prosperity and security. Amen. Okay. There's Loretta. You were here and then you left.
All of a sudden, my computer went off. It's fully charged and plugged in. I don't know what happened, but if I go away again, it's not me, it's the computer.
Okay, well, glad to have you here. Let's start this recording here. Okay, this is called Who or What is God?
My name is Dr. Jonathan Ellerby, and I'm actually recording this for a very specific group of people that I'm working with right now, and in particular, one person who I feel I've become friends with, who asked me a very direct question. Now, more often than not, because I have a PhD in comparative religion, because I've spent 35 years studying religious, spiritual, and healing traditions around the world, people want to know what other traditions have to say. Great healers, great teachers, great mystics. What do we find different and similar in the world of religion? And because of my particular, I guess you'd say, specialization in health and healing, of course, what does this all mean to living a healthier life, a successful life, a balanced life, and finding peace? But I've always tried to avoid speaking very directly about what I believe. I try to frame what I do in terms of, well, almost from a research perspective. So when I share what I believe, I usually speak in terms of science, religious studies, cultural studies, psychology, and so on. But this person asked me, well, what if we just start off by you telling me what you believe? Specifically, what do you believe God is? And then, if that's not clear or satisfactory or resonant, I can go research what other people think. So let me start backwards. If you really want to understand what God is, you have to realize that, as Joseph Campbell said, God is a word that is a mere reference for something that it ultimately defies explanation. And as such, it takes on all kinds of different shapes and forms, not only depending on what people have experienced of this ultimate mystery called God, but also depending on who they are, their culture, their time, their language, their education in that time period, and so on. Furthermore, the use of metaphor to describe something that we can't literally describe because it is by definition more like a feeling or like an energy or like something that transcends ordinary reality kind of leads us into a bit of a trap, because any metaphor for God often becomes mistaken as synonymous. What does that mean? It means if I say God is like a bird, then it's not very difficult for, 2 conversations later, God is a bird. Or God is like a human. God is human. God is like love. Or, you get the idea. So whether we talk about God as being like energy, or light, or father, or mother, all these things are, at least from a social science perspective, these are linguistic tools. They are ways to talk about something that really can't be talked about, because by definition, it transcends the ordinary world. It transcends the mind. If the ultimate nature of reality, or this thing called God, is what we actually come from, if it's what precedes all life and experience, then no life or experience could adequately reference it. Okay? So that's our starting point. God is mysterious. Okay, part 2. If you want to study more about God and maybe even get beyond your own experiences of God, I recommend a few particular authors to check out. Karen Armstrong, for sort of a historical study of God. I think that's very helpful. Deepak Chopra actually has a book, How to Know God, and other books with God in the title. I think his work is great, actually. I think he's an extremely intelligent man. I think he's actually deeply spiritual. It doesn't matter how good a businessman he is. He knows what he's talking about. So there's no question studying the work of Deepak Chopra is valuable. And then, as kind of a hybrid of the two, I would say it's wonderful to read The World's Religions by Houston Smith. And Houston Smith, who I was fortunate to meet on a couple of occasions and hear speak, was just a wonderful author, a scholar of world religions, but one who is very passionate about understanding the heart of a tradition, the experience of a tradition, and for that matter, the mysticism of a tradition. Now, this brings us to one last category in terms of if you want to learn about God. So if you want to learn about God, there are really 2 categories, at least academically speaking, that you're going to look towards. One is the religious understanding of God. Okay, so what do cultures and religious traditions call this thing? And then the other is the mystical understanding of God. Now, the mystical understanding of God is about the direct experience. So when we say mystics, mystic doesn't mean mystery. It doesn't mean woo-woo. It doesn't mean, all the other weird things people have come to use the word mystic. It doesn't mean psychedelic. A mystic, classically speaking, is someone who has directly experienced the ultimate nature of reality, the direct experience of God at such a level or at such frequency that it has permeated their consciousness, their worldview, their paradigm. And clearly, a mystic and their description of God and a religion and its description of God are not necessarily the same. In fact, mystics within religions are often kicked out because very often religions are concerned with social structure, hierarchy, politics, economics, and control. Now, that's not always true, but there's a lot of that in history, and I think we know it. So religion is often colored by the influence of non-mystics. Mysticism is a totally separate study, and if you're really interested in knowing God or exploring what God is, then some comparative text on mysticism is probably a great idea. Now, my favorite is no longer in print. It was by a man named W.T. Stace. Stace, called The Teachings of the Mystics, a brilliant comparative book, not easy to find anymore. If you're going to look one up, make sure that you feel good about the background of the author, make sure you like the writing style, and make sure that the comparative side of it, or the comparative process, feels fair and representative. All right, so that's about 5-6 minutes on how to get to know what other people think about God. Now, in just a few minutes, I'm going to try to do a quick summary of my experience. Now, I will say that my experience, which is a direct experience that has come through spontaneous and cultivated encounters in a variety of settings, from nature to religious settings to intentional settings to accidental settings, my experience is one that I would call direct. It's something that I felt, and in the moment of feeling it, it felt like an accurate perception of reality as it is. Now, I'm not saying it is for you, I'm saying that's what it felt like for me. I have no doubt that what I experienced as, quote, the ultimate nature of reality is in fact the ultimate nature of reality. Now, why do I think that? Well, first of all, everybody who thinks they've experienced God thinks that it's the ultimate experience. I'm willing to accept that. But the thing that gives me some comfort, that at least I'm in a workable model, is that it's corroborated by centuries of mystical teachings and writings, centuries, like literally dating back to the early Rig Vedas and before, the nuances of cave paintings and shamanic traditions that predated literacy. It's also corroborated by psychology. It's also corroborated by science. And when I say science, I mean all of the sciences, from medical science to physics to biology, astronomy. There's a congruence between this picture that I have and all these other systems. Now, again, we could all be wrong, but it works for me. In a nutshell, what I would say is that when I think of God as like an ocean. But this is a little tricky to imagine, because this is an ocean that doesn't end. So it kind of goes in every direction. There's actually not even a surface, per se. It's just everywhere. But like the real ocean, there's a kind of a surface, which we might call ordinary reality or the material world. And if we're on the surface, we kind of think that's all there is. And we see the surface and our play upon it as though it were the only reality. We see waves on that surface, and we distinguish one from the other, and we think it's a world of diversity. There's different winds, different territories of ocean, different parts of ocean around the, imagined world. So there's some parallel there. And yet, like the ocean, what we see on the surface is really barely the beginning of the story, that there are almost infinite layers of depth within that same ocean, and that things can be going on at one level and not another. There might be a pod of dolphins swimming, half a kilometer below the surface. There might be seagulls on the surface. There might be cold water at 2,000 feet, warm water at 50 feet. So the point is that something that appears to be one thing can also appear to be many things. It can be understood on different levels, and relative to where you are, the whole thing looks different. But here's the thing that gets a little weird and wonderful. Imagine now that you are swimming on that ocean. No boat, just you. But now imagine that you are made from salt water. I know it's kind of a stretch of the imagination, but you're made of the very same thing that the ocean is. Now you have enough integrity, let's say energetically, that you hold this different shape, just the way the waves hold different shapes, although they're all the one same ocean. And we might say there's a big wave and there's a small wave. It's still just the same ocean, different waves. So imagine you're like a wave. You're this being, you, swimming in the ocean, except you're made of the ocean. When you dive down into the ocean, you can still feel like you're you, because you're swimming through the ocean, but are you you? Where do you end? Where do you begin? How do you differentiate ocean from self, self from ocean? So for me, God is much more like a subtle energy than anything else. Now, that subtle energy has a very distinct quality, or you might say very distinct characteristics. Its energy is and can be organized. It has multiple layers of expression and multiple layers of density. Everything from that which you can't see all the way to that which you can see. In fact, energy for me is a simple, easily exchanged word for God, but so is spirit, and so is Tao, and so is life. The idea is that there is something, a great mystery, that we all come from. And that mystery, that energy, that consciousness is still with us. It is the source of things. It is the heart of things. It is the container of things. And thus it is the guiding, organizing design. Therefore, the universe responds to our behaviors, our ideas, our attitudes, our feelings, our emotions. All things are interconnected. All things are interrelated. All things are communicating. And so this being, this energy, this mystery feels very personal because there's a cause and effect to my actions as though the universe were, quote, listening. And the universe or the world or life, spirit is designed in such a way. And when I say designed, I don't mean the way an artist designs something. I mean it has a design that potentiates wisdom and healing. There's something in the design of the universe, in God, that draws us towards love, towards balance, towards wisdom, and towards this thing we might call evolution. The integration of more and more levels of being with more balance, more love, more wisdom, more communication. And so in this curious way, everything is God. God is everything. And yet, there is a layer of this ultimate existence that is individuated, and in our case has self-awareness, self-consciousness. And so we can make decisions. But much like being on your cell phone or playing a video game, you can never operate outside what's possible on the phone or what's possible in the game, or you get an error message. And this is basically where we come into the question of right living, authenticity, harmony. Is anything possible in this world? Well, not anything, actually. Is it almost like anything's possible because there are more things possible than we could possibly do? Yes. Is everything okay and acceptable inside God? Well, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that if it can exist, it will, and that makes it neither good nor bad. But rather than thinking of good or bad, think about nature. Think about science. The simple question, is it sustainable? Does an empire built on oppression and conquest last forever? No. Does someone who wins in business or sports but wins by cheating, can they win forever? No. So there can be a place for virtually anything, but not everything is in harmony with the design and the original energy. The original energy is not manipulating things. It's not like a person answering emails or agreeing to do some things and not others. But it has a design. And it is implicitly of a nature that is both material and non-material. And so once again, consciousness, emotion, thought, physicality, all these things occur within spirit, can move or change spirit, and can, so to speak, interact with spirit. And then the way you dress that all up, well, that's your spirituality. That's your religion. And maybe it comes to you in a metaphor. Maybe it comes to you in a being or a shape or a song or a vibration or some kind of psychedelic format. But it's all one thing, expressing itself as only you can know it, as it can only be known to you. And that's the only thing you really need to worry about. What other people see and feel and do is not necessarily entirely right or entirely wrong. The only question is whether it resonates with you, your most authentic self, your highest sense of good, and a sustainable life of harmony, growth, and healing. So that's probably enough for now, but that's a little bit about that, and I hope it's helpful. And if you have questions, well, check out my 10,000 other videos or pick up some of my books. Right now, Spiritual Experience is completely free as an electronic copy on my website. You don't have to sign up for anything. You're not going to get a follow-up about anything. You just click the link that says send me the book and it opens right up. So check it out. Let me know if you have questions, and hopefully I'll hear from you soon. I am regularly on YouTube, and if you subscribe, I would be ever so happy, and you will get more of things like this in the future. See you later.
So that was done in 2020. So it was been a few years, but I thought it was very well expressed. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
I thought it was excellent. And the thing that I drew from it, because when he was talking about that it potentiates wisdom and healing and love and balance, and I was thinking, yeah, well, there's some negative things that go on too. But he then went on to say that, in my words, says that anything that's not in harmony with the design is not sustainable, which I thought was really kind of interesting
Yeah, definitely.
and worth noting.
Anybody else? Sorry, you missed most of it, Joan. You're on mute. Unmute and then try again.
Thank you. Thank you guys for enabling me to come in, and I will be here from now on time and as much as I can on a Thursday. I'm so grateful. Now, I only heard the last part, but I guess that was the part I was supposed to hear, and it just, he's such a gift, and the way that he describes how our lives can be, I won't say should, but in our highest good, when we do align with that spiritual self, however we define it, and there is spirituality everywhere, and it's just finding what resonates most to your soul and really releasing with forgiveness to those who battle with who yourself to be. And also, when you were saying, I can't remember who, Loretta, no,
Mhm.
Yes, you just said about there's pain or there's difficulty in that growth. You know, the more I think we work on our spirituality and we accept those that are not in alignment, the easier it becomes to move higher towards our greatest good and that which, we know is in our hearts and why we're here to serve.
Okay.
I haven't mastered that by any means. I'm not speaking on the mountain, and I was, I think it's what we strive for, so that because I think whatever one believes in, whether it's God, whether it's Source, whatever, we're here for joy, we're here for peace, we're here for comfort, we're here to give each other what we uniquely bring, and to find that which resonates most, so that we can give more. And it's a journey.
Yeah.
And I love Jonathan, how he summarizes that so succinctly.
That's perfect. The quest is a big part of the equation. And you can find that video on YouTube. Jonathan
What was the
Ellerby's
name of it, Garth? What's the name of it?
Who or What is God?
Oh, I think he did. I think he gave us, I think we, as a group, he did I remember that one because he was walking in the woods and I remember that one. Yes.
Well, that was a different take on it, I think.
It was?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
But
Thank you.
certainly a recurring theme.
Probably.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
Barbara, you're muted.
Okay. I just appreciate that he gives us some authors to read. I've read Karen Armstrong and some of Deepak Chopra, but I'd love to read the Hudson Smith and look for the W.T. Stace readings, because I'm a reader and I like to dig. I like to dig and think about things. So I
Right.
appreciate the authors.
I was able to find Stace at the library.
Really?
So I wanted to add especially those titles and authors to the video. So I added that information. And I looked up Stace and I did not find the one he mentioned, but I did find the other one that I wrote down. So there are choices out there. I liked that material so much, I just had to continue adding little snippets that I found inspiring. So are we ready for another one?
Sure.
The
Sure.
next one is about the universe. And is fairly short. Think like the universe. And this one's he's in the woods, so I'll be in the woods with him.
Would you like to learn how to think like the universe? Well, consider this. The universe, unlike any other system ever contrived or developed by human beings, has been a successful working model of evolution and constant improvement, ongoing success and self-preservation for over 14 billion years, or approximately 14 billion years. What we find is that if we look through the lens of natural history, neuroscience, and believe it or not, astrophysics, we can, hang on, huckleberries. Oh my God. We can learn how to live in harmony with those laws. When we live in harmony with the laws of the universe, or you might say the principles or core conditions of the universe, then not only do we feel a congruence in and with our world, but remarkably, we find a kind of sustainable success and meaningful satisfaction, resilience, and joy in our personal inner lives. Ultimately, my personal belief or interpretation is that the same laws or principles or conditions that govern the outer world around us since the very inception of creation as we know it itself are the same laws that are at work, albeit symbolically or metaphorically, within our psychology and our spirituality. Now, you've heard of the 10 Commandments. Well, in this video, we're going to talk about the 10 conditions, the 10 conditions that the universe exists by, or that you might say the 10 conditions that we have come to understand about the universe. It's probably more accurately put that way, because let's face it, anything we understand is always filtered through our own personal lens. As you understand these 10 things, you must make note and ask yourself, can I live in accordance with these principles? Are these 10 principles at work in my life? And what would it look like if I applied them in the areas of my life where I struggle? All right, now check this out. In the middle of the forest, I actually have a piece of paper I'm going to hold up and show you. These are our 10 principles right here. So I'm going to read them to you one after the other and explain what they are. The first or starting point, the starting principle, is the principle of mystery and surrender. So surrender follows mystery because where there is mystery, there is an inability to control or solve or fix or manipulate. Mystery is our starting point. When we consider the rigors of science and even the most expansive approaches to spirituality, one thing we can all be sure of is that nobody really understands where this all comes from. Now, we have a pretty good sense, a working model of something called the Big Bang, which itself is not a completely intact theory. There are some things that are still being worked out, how many dimensions exist in reality, and frankly, where did that come from? What were the preconditions to the Big Bang? We have a pretty good idea of how things have unfolded since then, but still no one quite understands if this is the first Big Bang, or if there are others, or if this is all happening inside something else. Ultimately, mystery is our starting point. And then the question is, do you accept mystery in your life? Do you integrate mystery wherever you have stress or struggle? And the interpretation or translation is surrender, letting go, releasing control. In a universe that comes from mystery, then mystery should be how we relate to all things. The next principle we're going to talk about is oneness and interconnection. So if all things have come from this singular point, then at some level all things are an expression of singularity. That means nothing that exists is outside the universe. So everything is the universe. You are the universe. The people that offend you are the universe. This beautiful place around me is the universe. The dirtiest streets of the dirtiest cities are the universe. War and tragedy is the universe. And benevolence and compassion is the universe. So everything is one thing at some level. And that is valuable to understand because that means implicit interconnection and implicit oneness, or it's sort of a weird word, but interpenetration, which means I am in you, you are in me, the all is in the small is in the all. At some level, we have a shared identity. And wouldn't that be a nice way to relate to people, places, and things. The next thing we must recognize, really from a position of astrophysics and science, is that everything is energy, which means, yes, things are in constant flux and creation and destruction, but somehow they are all expressions of a subtle force. A subtle force. That means your consciousness, your body, your breath, the space between things. Everything is energy at some level. And so it becomes important to think about our life problems and challenges as energy issues and energy equations. The next thing we know about the universe is that from the singularity, diversity has emerged. And if you look around me here, you could see 100 different life forms just in one single frame of the camera. From bugs and birds to types of plants and trees, the world thrives on diversity. When we look at the lessons of regenerative agriculture, we look at the lessons of biodiversity, we know that where there is biodiversity, life thrives, and when biodiversity is constricted, life eventually diminishes. In a similar way, we can even look at economic systems and see the more that there is control and narrowness, there may be short-term success, but ultimately, whether it's scaling an organization or competing with organizations, ultimately the collaborative, dynamic, diverse, cooperative model will always succeed over time. Continuing on, we have the word multidimensional, and it's really remarkable, but this comes from science. We now know in theoretical physics that if we're going to explain all the phenomena that we see on Earth and in the measured human world, we postulate there are between 9 and 11 additional dimensions beyond, front, back, up, down, right, left, time, and space. 9 other dimensions. This is remarkable. And what it means on a psychological and spiritual level is that there's more to you than what you think. There's more to you than your job, more to you than your mind, more to you than what you have. We are multidimensional beings, and that can be understood in many, many ways. From there, we move on to the creative evolution, or the force of growth, which is innate in all things in life on Earth. Everything changes. And if you want to get with the program, then you're going to align yourself with the intention to grow and change. That brings us to the next principle, which is learning and feedback. Evolution is built on the idea that when things don't work, things modify. As things modify, success, failure, sustaining, collapsing, all that is a kind of feedback loop. And so we are all about learning on this planet. And the question follows, are you about learning in your life on this planet? We're going to run out of time for the rest of them. We have death, birth, and neutrality. We have impermanence. And then we have the balance of yin and yang, expansion and contraction. Death, birth, and neutrality are one thing. Everything that is created arises through something that is destroyed. And that teaches us that nothing lasts and all things change. And we will always go through a wave and cycle of expansion and contraction. It's the nature of being.
Okay, what do you think about that one? Okay, don't everybody talk at once.
I wish I had picked up what was after death, birth, and neutrality.
Impermanence.
Thank you. And also, I think expansion and contraction.
Yes.
Genius.
I just think it's all very fascinating. And I wish we learned more of these types of things when we're in school. I mean, I kind of feel like we're talking down to, we're not really encouraging people to stretch if we don't talk about some of this. It shouldn't only be a small select group of people that talk about it.
You know, it brings up an interesting point. I mean, school, you know, politics, school, you know, you wonder, it seems that this also could be explored in every religion, regardless, because starting with, you know, the being, the mystery of Christ, God, whatever, you know, one believes, and going deeper into breath, you know, expansion, contraction. I love how he starts with mystery and he brings it down into life, you know, from death, birth, life, almost being reborn, which is contraction, expansion, your breath, the universe contraction, expands. You look at the seasons, I mean, I love, he's so cerebral that he's as high as he is deep. And it's brilliant that I'm a trends person, so I love looking at various systems, and that he brings in economics and he brings in, you know, and it really is one. There was another one where he talked about duality right after oneness. I remember that when he did that with us. And it's fascinating because, you know, there's this force, counterforce, there's dark, there's light, there's growth, there's death, there's, you know, rebirth, you know, every spring, hope springs eternal. There is, you know, and it just to bring it all back into, you know, impermanence and yet expansion and contraction of being. You know, there are times when we need to retreat, there's times when we need to go forward. How do you do both? Retreat without hiding, go forward without aggression. How do you, you know, and I think that's, you know, all of these, each of these, and all of them are just so ripe for discovery, rediscovery, maybe in the context of what one believes in, you know, relative to whether as a child, religious school, or whatever one is, with confirmation or bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, you know, when you go from child to adult, wherever that place is, wouldn't it be a wonderful thing to explore, and then to all bring together our diverse experiences into one. That was a lot. So just kind of brain drain, download, heart centered.
That's great. It's great. And even a whole thing that he said about diversity. You know, if we just learned that, I think this is why I didn't do that well in school, because this is what I wanted to learn. I didn't want to learn what they wanted to teach me. I wanted to
Exactly.
learn this.
Yes, yes. Well, and he made one statement, and I just wrote down a few words, and so I probably missed the whole thing, but he made a statement about control is narrowness and has an end. And I thought, oh my gosh, if you just talked about that with everybody, because there's so many people trying to control what happens, and you have to give up control.
That was a mystery. Absolutely. Because yeah.
And
Because
even
you're unfiltered.
if religion started with, it's a mystery, we don't know, but here's what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think? Right? Or what are your beliefs? Yeah, absolutely.
It wouldn't make everybody right or wrong.
And let people, everybody is free to believe what fits their experience. You know, but that's just not the way religion is. It's like, okay, we're here and we believe this, you know.
We have the right answer.
But that's the difference between belief and knowing.
Yes. Yes.
But know it all.
Right.
This was a good one.
Debbie, you have any thoughts?
They
You
both
always
were
have great
excellent.
thoughts.
Well, the thought
Is
I
Jonathan is he out of town, or is he out of commission, or I missed the beginning?
Yeah, unknown. He's out of town. We know that. He's Probably on business.
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery.
What were you gonna say, Debbie?
I just feel every time I listen to him that he's so articulate,
Mhm.
and he makes you question deeper into things. And to me, that's the beauty of his mentorship, really. There's a saying in nursing, that we're on the shoulders of giants. And I think, I feel this way every time I come on Humanity's Stream, that I'm, on the shoulder of a giant. And it really is a pleasure to be able to listen to how he thinks about things and the depth. And if I have to look at my own life and the mentorships that I've had, there's a line of truth that goes through that. Like everything is energy, and
Mhm.
the part about surrendering. Any good mentor that you're with will bring up these issues that he targets so explicitly. And I just enjoy listening to him. He makes me think every time a little bit deeper. And I think that's where you reach your authenticity, and you kind of shed the superficial of yourself, is by, different programs like this. So hopefully they'll create a better world, which I'm sure they will. And I don't seem to have the antagonism against religion, because I just feel you take of it what you desire, and you move with the religion that best suits you in the world, if you have to operate in this world. And you go with the one that gives you the most depth. And so I kind of try to shed this hostility towards religion, because I'm not sure it's helpful in the long run.
It's not.
To realize that's where we are as a people, and we needed certain foundations and morality, and we tweaked it along the years. And I'm not sure. I think religion has been given a bad break, so to speak. And I think I would like to see more people appreciate the things we've attained through religion to develop our spirituality in history and evolution. That's my thought.
And love, two things just to respond to what you said. I mean, it's, you look at a little bit about Jonathan's background, that which we know and he's shared, and he is a wise elder. And he's young, but I mean, he's ageless, but there's a wisdom beyond experience, beyond knowledge, beyond, there's the truth of wisdom that I believe, we all have these glimpses of incredible depth and wisdom. And the second thing you said, I'd add one word to the praise of religion, and that is community. I think it gives people a sense of belonging where they long to be belonging. I think without it, there are a lot of, we look at the rate of suicide and abuse and drugs and, lostness. I've experienced two people who are very close, who've either lost a child in the last week, to sending someone away, a child who's consistently, just or systematically, becomes lost. And I think that religion can give a sense of wonder and belonging and questioning. If that is part of the religion, which I think many of us have religious backgrounds where you question. You don't just, think that religion is an institution of population. It's a way to share the kinds of things that we're doing here in the highest, place. So I agree with you. I think it has a place, and I think it gives people a sense of something bigger than what is the daily of, oh my God, I didn't do this, and I to do, that this stuff. 5 refuges.
Well put. So for me, it boils down to God, love, and dog, which is the opposite of God.
The loyalty.
Mhm.
Right. So for some of you that don't know about Humanity Stream, this is the trove of wonderful teachings like soul circles that you can be a part of. It is a yearly thing, but if you go here to the search and look for soul circles, you will find the complete collection.
Are you on YouTube, Garth, or is this where are you here?
This is Humanity Stream.
Oh, humanitystream.org. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
So it has many URLs. Stream.humanitystream.org is one of them. Humanitystream.org/stream is another one. If you go to humanitystream.org,
Okay.
you will find a button here to log in. You will find another doorway right here.
So Humanity Stream, and then you click on programs, and then Humanity Stream, and then you get to Jonathan too.
So actually, this route in takes you to a paywall. It tells you all the stuff that's here and then asks for money.
Oh, okay.
If you go directly to stream, Humanities team. Oh, that didn't work. Do it this way. Then you will get to the browser where you can poke around, and it's my understanding that the first episode or module for each of these classes is open to the public.
Mhm.
So it's Humanities Team. It's stream.humanitiesteam.org.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
got it.
And so you can browse, which is this page. You can search, which gives you the opportunity to type in a search term or a speaker like Ellerby. And there are, support if you need support. It's really, each one of these categories also is way deep. So you could spend forever watching all this stuff.
Thank you.
Okay, well, good to see y'all again.
Thanks, Garth. They were good
Thank
choices.
you, Garth.
Presumably,
putting this
Jonathan
together.
will be back next week.
Okay.
Bless you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.